name is Diana Hsieh, and I, technically I guess I represent the Coalition for Secular Government, but since that's just me and a blog, I am representing myself as well. I am just an ordinary citizen. I have a PhD in philosophy, which I guess makes me a little bit odd. And I'm not a political activist by trade. That's not what I do. I do stuff in ethics. I write and I speak on that. But on occasion, what happens is some issue comes up, I just can't take it, and so I jump into the fray. And that happened in 2008 with Amendment 48, and it happened in 2010 with Amendment 62, which were the two personhood amendments. And I was vehemently, adamantly opposed to these, and I wanted to speak out on them. And in particular, I thought that, and Ari Armstrong and I wrote 2 policy papers on those, which I'll talk about in a second. And we thought we had something different to say than the major Protect Families, Protect Choices coalition. So we thought it was really important for us to get out there and to reach as many people as we could with our message, because it was different from the other opponents of this amendment. And so I had to fill out all of these detailed forms. It took me a heck of a long time. I was worried about getting it right, and submitted that. And you know what the end result of that was? My impression at the end was, wow, I am never, ever going to spend any more money fighting this amendment. No more, I'm done spending money, I'm gonna use the internet, use other free sources, because it's just too much of a hassle to spend any money promoting my views. So in terms of a chilling effect on free speech, yeah, it was a chilling effect on free speech. So then the same problem basically arose in 2010 when the same ballot measure, or the same issue, the personhood issue, got on the ballot. Now, instead of working for weeks for free like we had done the last time, Ari and I decided that we wanted to use a business model that I had developed, a pledge model, to fund this work. And basically how that worked was if supporters of ours, if supporters of abortion rights were willing to pledge $2,000 for us to massively revise and update our paper, we would go ahead and do it. And basically their pledges would come due if we completed the work by a certain deadline. So I announced this, I gathered a whole lot of pledges, and then all of a sudden it struck me, and I really think I was kind of blocking it out. Oh my gosh, I've got all these campaign finance regulations. Because before I didn't have donors, and so it just didn't occur to me, like, I'm gonna have to report all these people who are supporting me. This was not a happy thought. And I did actually seriously consider for a time simply scrapping the whole project, because I was really worried. I was worried for a couple of reasons. One, I just didn't want to go through the burdens of reporting. I thought that was I just didn't want to do it. The other reasons that I didn't want to do it was I thought it was invading the privacy of my donors. I considered this to be essentially a private transaction. Of people were supporting me, and I was helping to get the word out there about this. I didn't think that it was anybody else's business that they had to know who helped pay for my salary when I wrote this work. And the other issue I had, which is I think it's not an unfair concern, is there is harassment and violence against pro-choice people by the anti-abortion crowd. Now, I know there's lots of really reasonable, nice anti-abortion people, but there's also some real crazies, and there have been abortion doctors killed, people get harassed, and here I was going to be publishing the names and the addresses and potentially the employers and workplaces of people on this really contentious issue. And I thought, wow, am I really willing to subject people to that? That seems really unfair. And so, as I said, I considered just scrapping the whole project entirely, but that thought actually really got me angry, because I didn't want to give up because of these campaign finance rules. So what I did was I emailed everybody who'd pledged to me and said, look, here's what I'm going to have to report to the state. If you want to void your pledge, we can do that, no problem. Or if you want to reduce it down to, let's say, the $19 level or something under the $100 level, so I wouldn't have to report your workplace, that's okay too. And happily, most people actually, everybody who wrote me back was completely incensed that they had to have their information reported. They were disgusted. They thought it was completely ridiculous that I had to go through the burden of reporting them, that this couldn't be simply a purely private contribution. Some people did reduce their donations, and I don't blame them for doing that. Some people, particularly a number of people were concerned about, let's say, losing clients if they own their own business, or just having their coworkers find out. They just didn't want to make it a work issue which it would be if their workplace was published. And a couple people did actually, they got angry enough that they increased their pledges, which I was very grateful for. So basically what happened was once again, having to file all these reports simply discouraged me from raising more money and spending more money. I mean, I could have asked people, hey look, I'd like to do more Facebook ads, would you be willing to contribute to that? No, thank you. It just was not worth getting in that 25 bucks, having to go through the effort of reporting that in order to spend more money. I don't know a whole lot about about how this works because it hasn't happened to me, thank goodness. But I do know that it's now become, in political activist circles, it's a game that people play whereby they comb through their opponent's records, find some minor problem, and drag them into this administrative court or whatever it is in order to essentially stop them from speaking, stop them from doing their advocacy work during the run-up to the election. And one of the reasons I know this was because in 2008, there was a leftist who did this against my opponents on the issue, in other words, the pro-personhood people. And I was incensed about this, even though it was, allegedly benefiting my side. I thought, this is ridiculous, play it fair. And I think that that's something that these regulations allow to happen, is that people can get dragged into court rather than actually battling it out in the field of ideas.